Hello, everyone, and welcome into MVP Sports. My name is SOapy Muffin. Today, we're in one of the most exciting moments in basketball. Forget the playoffs. This is tanking season, baby. This is what I'm here for. It's mock draft season. This is the real time of the season that matters for me, mostly because my team always sucks and I never have to look forward to the playoffs. But before we get into that, we're going to run through some housekeeping real quick. If you'd like to go to patreon.com/MVPvids, there you can support us at a monetary value if you would like. We haven't been posting a lot of content. We've all been incredibly busy here at MVP, so we are trying to find some time. We have a project in the works. Should be fun. Should be able to get a lot of the community involved. Obviously, you are watching us on MVP Sports, but if you'd like to swing over to MVP Entertainment, there we talk about gaming, movie, TV shows, all that sorts of stuff. Me and Ricky have a talk show. We haven't done it in a little bit. Once again, schedules have been hectic. My internet was a massive problem for quite some time. Obviously, I got it fixed now, so we should be starting up the show as soon as we can. And as well, if you'd like to join into the Discord, there you can have conversations about playoff basketball, the draft, the NFL draft that's coming up, or past by the time that it's posted. I don't know exactly what time we're going to post this, but you can join just in any of those conversations. The link will be down in the description. And now, to get some of the disclaimers out of the way, so obviously, as you can see, or I honestly don't know if we're going to show this screen right away or not. The Hornets are the number one overall pick in mine. This isn't how it actually is. I have it that I rolled 5 times on Tankathon on there just so it spices it up, just so it's not the same. Like the Rockets at 1, the Thunder, or like the Magic at 2. So it's not just those over and over again. So we do have a little bit of pick variety. And as well, this is only the first round. Once we get to like the final mock before the draft, I will do a full draft, and I'll probably even do trades too. Let me guys know if you'd want to see that. But without further ado, let's get into this. With the first overall pick, I'm going to have the Charlotte Hornets take Chet Holmgren. Honestly, to me, I think this one is just kind of a easy take. Just take the BPA at this point. Now, granted, he's not personally my BPA, but I do think a lot of people have him consensus number 1. So I don't think it's that crazy. I don't think there's too much I have to say in defense of Chet. But, I mean, hey, who knows? All you got to know is you are getting a guy who's going to be an elite defender at the next level. He's not going to play center. So that's going to be an interesting thing for Charlotte to figure out. They want to slide PJ Washington over to the 5 and see if that works. But if Chet's offense develops at all, oh boy, that tandem of him and LaMelo is terrifying. With the second overall pick, I have the Detroit Pistons. They are going to select Paolo Banchero. To me, Paolo is personally my BPA. I think he has one of the highest upsides. I'm not going to say the highest, but I think he does have one of the highest upsides. I think he is going to be a player that is reminiscent of like the first year in Detroit Blake, or 18-19 Blake. Basically, Blake that was really good at basically every facet of basketball. And I think Paulo is just going to be an absolute stud. I know there was questions about his whole cramping situation. They figured out how to minimize that in college. So I'm confident they can do it in the NBA. Obviously, if the NBA pulls some weird shenanigans that like they can't use the stuff they used in college, then obviously that's a problem. But that'll be something that team can figure out at the time. With the third overall pick, the Thunder are actually in a really interesting spot. So before I announce who I had them taking in this, I do kind of want to talk about, they are a team that I think could switch up who goes where. So obviously, Jabari is considered top 3 normally across almost every board. It's very rare you see any of the top 3 fall out. I think with the Thunder at 3, they are a team that I could see switching up the formula. And it's simply because I think they could be a team that takes a swing at Duren. But to me personally, I don't think it would happen. I think Jabari Smith is still the play here. Jabari's offensive upside is massive, and I think he is a guy that is going to massively help them. I think he allows you to move on from the Poku experiment, which hasn't really worked out. I could also have given up quicker because obviously I'm not a Thunder fan. Thunder fans, let me know how you feel about Poku and the selection of Jabari Smith at 3. With the 4th overall pick, the New Orleans Pelicans are going to select Jaden Ivey. For anyone who doesn't know, that was the Lakers pick that conveyed to them in the Anthony Davis trade. To me, I think they just need a point guard, and I think it's getting someone who's able to play high tempo. If Zion comes back next year and he's playing, him paired to Ivy is going to be nuts. I do think, though, a lot of the comps that Ivy has gotten, I think are very cheap. I think it's just because of his similar play style to Ja. I just don't like that people compare the two because it's only because they have a similar game. It's not at all of like, hey, he does this at the same level as Ja. It's just, like they're both athletic point guards. With the 5th overall pick, I have the Houston Rockets taking Keegan Murray. In my personal opinion, I think Christian Wood should not be in the future team, and I think Keegan Murray is the perfect guy to replace him. Of where Keegan Murray is going to be one of the best natural scorers in this class, and I think pairing him alongside other offensive players is going to make this Rockets offense scary to deal with. I think it's a lot of people are going to underestimate just how good that offense is going to be, and I think they could be a team that not pushing for playoffs, but I think could be pushing for like 10, like I'd say 12th to 10th seed. I think is what they could push for, depending on depending on how the rest of the draft goes and free agency for them as well. With the 6th overall pick, I have the Orlando Magic taking AJ Griffin. To me, I am an AJ Griffin stan, and I will ride or die with this man. I know he's had injuries in the past. I know there are questions behind that. To me personally, I don't think they're that major. Like, yes, they capped him out for most of his, final year in high school. And, it's an injury that, could come back. But to me personally, I don't think it matters. I think you take him there. He is a guy, I think his offense is going to be so much better at the next level. I know there's questions of defender. I don't think he's a terrible defender. I think he is serviceable. He's not great, but he's not awful. And that's really all there is to say about that pick. I mean, you guys are getting an offensive stud. With the 7th overall pick, I have the Indiana Pacers selecting Shaedon Sharpe. And with this one, I leaked this in the Discord. And it's because, to me personally, I think Sharpe will be a top 3 player in this class. I had to think about it for a second to figure out where I would rank him because I bounce around all the time. Before I've said I think he could be the best. Now I'm saying top 3. To me, I think it's a lot of teams, though, are going to look at him and be like, okay, is this going to translate? Because obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, Shaedon Sharpe did not play a single game in college. Obviously, because of a lot of rules about his reclassifying, I'm not personally super knowledgeable about it. So, I personally don't really know too much about it. But I do know that obviously he reclassified, but he was allowed to declare for the draft. And obviously, he has now declared. Which messed up my original recording because I had it to where I wasn't going to include him. But of course, the second I finished recording the mock, he declares. So you guys can thank Shaedon Sharpe for this coming out late. But I think Indy's the perfect spot for him. Indy's going into a rebuild. I think they're going to be moving a lot of their pieces, or a lot of their older pieces on this team. And I think he is a guy who's going to benefit being able to play next to Halliburton. And alongside other, guys on this team, that he's going to be allowed to make mistakes. And that's the main thing with him. If he is going to be a player, you have to be accepting of his mistakes. You can't just act like that he's going to be a finished product stepping in. He's basically stepping in directly from height. You have to go into it with that expectation. I think he is a guy who's going to massively benefit from being in a situation like that, where he's allowed to kind of make mistakes but still grow from them. The 8th overall pick, I have the Portland Trailblazers taking Jalen Duren. To me, I'm personally not a huge fan of Duren, but I think Duren is a player that he is going to go here because the fact that Blazers truly need a center. Nurk is reaching the point of where he just can't stay healthy anymore. He's not staying on the court. We're seeing Nurk more in a suit on the sidelines than we are seeing him in a jersey, which, I mean, obviously sucks. Nurk is a fine player, and and it sucks to see a player kind of hit the end of their career like that. But I truly do think that he is going to be a guy that you can take here at 8, and then just move on from that point of like, okay, like we can kind of bring Nurk back in maybe on a cheap deal, and by the end of Nurk's contract, like Duren's ready to be the starting center. I don't think he's ready day one. I think he's gonna have a lot of problems stepping in, because he's going to have to adjust to the physicality, the fact that he's no longer the standout athlete, that he's going to be on a same physical level, not with everyone, but there are going to be centers who are able to match him athletically, where I think it's going to be an interesting concept for him to go through. With the 9th overall pick, I have the Sacramento Kings selecting Johnny Davis. To me personally, I know obviously a lot of people are going to be like, oh wow, would you look at that? Sacramento's taking another guard. To me personally, I think that they don't want Davion and De'Aaron starting together. Granted, obviously, Kings fans, let me know if I'm completely wrong about this. Obviously, I didn't get a chance to watch every single Kings game, and I don't get to keep up with every little bit of news about the Kings. But, I think it's pairing Fox with another guy like Davis is going to be massive for them. And the fact that it allows them to play up tempo, puts the ball in another person's hands that in possessions massive for them. And I think it's just going to be Davis is a good selection here for them. At the 10th overall pick, I have the San Antonio Spurs selecting Benedict Mathurin. To me, I think Mathurin's just the next best player off the board. Spurs kind of, with multiple picks this round, I think are a team that just kind of, okay, take safe pick, take risk, potentially take another safe. So I think the Spurs are just going to be a team, they see Mathurin there and be like, okay, yeah, we can pair him well with other people on our team. And I think they can really get the most out of him. At the 11th overall pick, I have the Washington Wizards selecting Dyson Daniels. To me personally, I'm making this selection with the thought in mind that Bradley Beal is staying on the team for the long term. To me, if it was like, okay, we have full plans of moving on from Bradley Beal, I would have gone with someone else here. But I think it's just, to me, I'm going off the assumption Bradley Beal's coming back, and I think Dyson Daniels is a guy that he's good at everything, like not jack of all trades, but a master of none. So I think he's a guy, he's a switchblade, you can put him in there, he's going to be able to play defense, he can play make, he can score. Like he just covers up a lot of the areas that you wish other players would have. At the 12th overall pick, I'm going to have the New York Knicks select Tari Eason. To me personally, Eason is the best forward left on the board. I know a lot of people are seeing, Ochai Agbaji still sitting here. To me personally, I think Tari Eason is incredible. And I think he's a player that a lot of people are going to underestimate going into the season. I think he's a guy that you can play him as a small ball four, and I think it can work. And especially because I think the Knicks are on the verge of moving on from Randall. Obviously, Knicks fans, let me know if I'm wrong. You guys already will. I'm just inviting you to let me know. But I think Tari Eason's scoring ability and the fact that he can be a serviceable defender is going to be a very good thing for the Knicks moving forward. With a 13th overall pick, I have the OKC Thunder taking Nikola Jovic. To me, this is the one of like, okay, we're going big now. Because now I think you can move on from Poku, and now you can be like, okay, Jovic's he is the prospect, he is the project. We're gonna see how this, crazy train goes. And honestly, if I'm being honest here, I think he's a good option for that because the fact his offensive upside is crazy. I don't know if he ever starts, but I think he is a guy that at that position of where scoring is so pivotal, he could be a guy who absolutely runs the bench. And maybe even the fact of, in the future, maybe he does start for the team. Who knows? With the 14th overall pick, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers selecting Ochai Agbaji. I know I probably say his name wrong, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'll always say his name wrong. There's not a single point that's going to make me actually say his name correct until he becomes a super elite player. I'm not saying this in a mean way. I just genuinely suck with names. To me, I think Cavs take a guy that's going to help right away, allows them to put Caro on the bench, and just he's a guy who's already shown he could win in college. Let's see if it translates to the NBA, and I think he's a guy that the Cavs aren't going to take a person who may take a year or two. They're going to take a guy who can help right now because they almost made playoffs until injuries absolutely wrecked their season. So, running out Agbaji with this team certainly is going to help. With the 15th overall pick, I have the Charlotte Hornets selecting Mark Williams. And honestly, to me, this is mostly just because if you don't want to pair Chet next to PJ Washington at center, this is the safety net of okay, we can do this. Now, granted, there was a trade floating around on Twitter, and all I'm saying, if it happens, the Hawks would not be, not the Hawks, the Hornets wouldn't be having 2 picks. Pistons would have this pick, but we're not going to go over that. This is for a future one. But Mark Williams has a lot of upside, and I think he is the second best center off the board because I don't count Chet as a center. But I think Mark Williams is the second best center off the board, and I think he's going to massively help this team. With the 16th overall pick, I have the Atlanta Hawks. They are going to take Ty Washington. To me personally, I'm not a huge fan of Ty Ty. I do have a lot of questions personally about his play style and how he's going to translate to the NBA. But I do think he is going to be a player that is able to massively help that bench unit for Atlanta. Obviously, at the time of this recording, Atlanta has been eliminated. And I think a lot of it is just going to be coming down to adding depth to the bench. I know some people want them to take another forward. To me personally, though, that bench guard's got to get situated. And I think Washington is the guy who can come in and do that right away. With the 17th overall pick, I have the Houston Rockets, not Rockies. I don't know what the team the Rockies are, but the Houston Rockets selecting Jeremy Sochan. To me personally, I think it's just they are in incredible need of making this defense better. There's so much potential for this offense to be absolutely next level. And I think having someone in this team like Sochan, who is an incredible defender, I think pairs perfectly along with the fact of yes, he's not an offensive threat yet, but he's on a team that he doesn't really need to be one right away. Where he can be the stalwart defender who's guarding everyone, and it just makes everyone else's day so much easier on the defensive end. I think that's just going to make it so much easier for them. The 18th overall pick, I have the Chicago Bulls taking EJ Liddell. To me personally, I've been saying it throughout the year in the Discord, I think the Bulls do not have time to wait for Patrick Williams to develop. Obviously, the end of season collapse happened, playoffs happened, and hey, they could come back at the time of this recording. The Bulls have not been eliminated just yet, but there's the news that Zach LaVine and Alex Caruso are out, so that's tough for Bulls fans. Shout out to you guys for having a good season, but getting someone like EJ Liddell who's able to come in and even help relieve Patrick Williams is someone I think is going to be a really good thing for them. And I actually do wonder going forward of how their postseason is going to affect this, because I do think they could trade this pick to move on for someone like a Miles Turner. So obviously I don't have trades in mind, but I don't think the Bulls end up selecting here at 18, but who knows? Liddell's a guy who's going to be able to help Patrick Williams. He's basically an older version of Patrick Williams, but not as high of a ceiling. But that's who I have them selecting at 18. In the 19th overall pick, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves taking Kendall Brown. I love Kendall Brown. It took everything in my power to not have my bias take over and have him just shoot to the top of my board and have him in the lottery. To me, I think he reminds me a whole lot of Miles Bridges. Now, granted, not as complete of a player out of college as Bridges was, because Bridges was an absolute phenom in college. Like, he was a complete player. He stepped in, struggled for a little bit. He wasn't able to get a shot to fall for a while, but once it started falling, everyone's like, oh, Bridges is a really good player. And I think Brown isn't going to do that. I think he's going to be much more raw. But the fact that he's an incredible slashing talent, he's a guy that he's not a bad defender, but he's not good. You know, he's serviceable, he's able to switch, and I think he's going to be able to help this Timberwolves team as they kind of grow into the playoff team that they were this year. With the 20th overall pick, the San Antonio Spurs are going to select Jaden Hardy. Once again, taking the guy that he is an entire... Like, I have mixed feelings with him. Now, Hardy, I think, can be one of the best guards in this class, like, bar none. The problem is, he has to, and I mean he has to, get his efficiency up. Because the main thing is, he cannot hit the broad side of a barn 90% of the time. The thing is, though, you watch him play, and it's that, like, he's so close to being there. He's so close. Like, obviously, I know people are going to be like, wait, you had him go off the board before Beauchamp? To me, I think a lot of people are overreacting to how Beauchamp played. I think Beauchamp's also going to be a pretty solid player. But to me, Hardy has more tools to be an elite player. And that's why I have the Spurs taking him at 20. At 21, I have the Denver Nuggets selecting Malachi Branham. To me, I am a fan of Branham. I think Branham is going to be this year's Bones Highland of the, like, how did he go this low? Earlier in the year, I've had Branham, I think, all the way up at 16 for the Hornets. So, or not Hornets, for Hawks. And, like, to me, it's just, in this mock, it's the Hornets. Why do I keep saying Hornets? The Hawks. You know, they just need a backup point guard. You know, obviously, Lou Willie is getting older at that point, but we're not going to talk about the Hawks. With him on Denver, it's an interesting situation because now you can run a backcourt off your bench of Bone Highland and Branham, and I think that is a terrifying duo. I think that is going to be genuinely one of the best bench backcourts in the league. Maybe not year one, maybe not even year two, but a couple years in, when Branham and Bones figure out how to play together, that is going to be absolutely terrifying. But the 22nd overall pick, I have the Memphis Grizzlies. They select Blake Wesley. I'm going to be honest, I don't have a lot to say about it. I think Blake Wesley is just going to be able to step in and just score at the next level. I think he's going to just be a contributing piece. Sorry, Grizzlies fans. I know you guys probably also want as long of a rant about everyone else, but I don't really have much to say about him. I just think Wesley is the pick here. At 23, I have the Brooklyn Nets selecting Ousmane Dieng. Now, I probably said his name wrong, obviously. As I said earlier in the video, I am terrible with names. Don't hold me to it. I'm personally not a huge fan of him. I'm going to be brutally honest here. Everyone has talked him up, and I've seen people in the Discord, mostly Dave, say he could be a lottery talent. I just personally don't see it. I think, yes, he has the skill set, but I think he's going to need a time to shine, and I think Brooklyn's going to be that team that takes him and hopes he kind of takes a Cam Thomas approach and just becomes an absolute monster right off the bat. But who knows? I could be completely wrong, and he could be the best player in this class. Beats me. Only time will tell. With the 24th overall pick, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. They are going to take Marchand Beauchamp. To me, it's a weird situation because I thought in my head, okay, who's the most Greek guy in this draft that hasn't been taken yet? Because that's who they'll take. Because they love drafting people with really hard to pronounce last names. Honestly, there's not a lot of people like that. So, but outside of that joke, I think Beauchamp's going to be a really important piece for this Milwaukee team. With the fact that Beauchamp is an incredible finisher already. To me, he reminds me so much of Hamidou Diallo. And Diallo is really, he's solid. I'm not trying to be biased because he's on my team. But Beauchamp he's shown the ability to be able to shoot in the future. I think with him, it's just, you got to be patient and understand he is not going to be a shooter. He is going to be a driving to the basket and finishing around there. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite defender, but I think he's going to be good enough that he's not like, we have to make a defensive scheme to hide him. So, I think that is the situation with Beauchamp, and hopefully Beauchamp pans out, because I think it'd be pretty nice to see Beauchamp thrive in the Milwaukee. With the 25th overall pick, I have the San Antonio Spurs. They are going to select Christian Koloko. To me, I am personally not a believer in some of the Spurs' young, big talent. Now, I know, obviously, they have Zach Collins. I'm not a believer in Zach Collins. I'm going to be completely honest here. I think Zach Collins gets hurt way too often to be a contributing NBA player. I think he has, his sky... I'm not going to say sky's the limit, because I don't think that's actually what it is. But, to me, he just gets hurt too much. I think Christian Koloko gets to act as that insurance policy of, okay, we can continue to take the risk with Collins, but if it doesn't, at least we have Koloko, who I think is going to be able to step in and kind of fill that similar role. I also question at times is, what's the future for Poeltl? Because obviously Poeltl is one of the best rim-protecting bigs in the NBA. He's a massively underrated player, and everyone should start putting respect on Poeltl. But he is a guy that we hear floated out in trade rumors. Now, obviously, that's other teams floating it out. But you never know. Poeltl could be a guy who's on the move. So I think maybe getting someone who's able to play with a young core is the way to go. Once again, Spurs fans, you guys will let me know if I fucked up the pick. I already know every fan base that doesn't like my pick's going to do it, so there you go. You get permission to shit talk me in the comments. With the 26th overall pick, I don't have the Dallas Mavericks taking Walker Kessler because I think Kessler is bad at basketball. So I have them taking instead Wendell Moore. To me personally, I know there's going to be Maverick fans that are like, wait, we need a big. Get one in free agency. Do not draft Kessler Edwards. Or Walker Kessler, not Kessler Edwards. That's a different guy. Do not draft Kessler. He stinks. I'm being serious when I say this. I put him on my big board at 61 or something like that. He legitimately stinks. He is not going to be good at the NBA level. He is Hassan Whiteside 2.0. And people are going to be like, but he rebounds and plays defense. No, he doesn't. Kessler stands in the paint and he's taller than everyone, so that's why he looks like a good defender. To me, get more people who can score around Luka on a consistent basis and even create their own shot, because lo and behold, the Mavericks offense is really easy to figure out, and there's a very real chance you lose Brunson in the offseason. So, pair Luka with more people who are able to score on their own, and I think Moore is the guy to do that. I don't think Kessler fixes, if I could speak English, I don't think Kessler fixes a single damn thing with this team. At 27, I have the Miami Heat. They are going to be the team that takes a swing on Patrick Baldwin Jr. To me, I think Baldwin Jr. can still go top 20. I think it's mostly just because you have to kind of look at it and question, like, okay, did he play bad because he's bad, or did he play bad because his team was bad? Now, obviously, I am personally a believer in PB&J. I think he is going to be a good player. I think it's just he got paired with some pretty lackluster people in college. So I think he's just going to be a guy that he can grow and develop in that Heat system and hopefully become a contributing player at the next level. But hey, time will tell. Heat fans will once again let me know if I fucked it up. At 28, this is, I think, my biggest reach of the draft so far. At 28, I have the Golden State Warriors taking Trevion Williams. To me personally, I think Trevion is the guy who's going to be the next Draymond. Now, granted, I know people are going to be like, oh my god, the Warriors taking another Draymond. Say it ain't so. To me, I think Trevion is the guy that you can play at center. He can easily play it. He fits. He's a good enough center that you don't need to worry about anything. Now, granted, they could also take someone like, I'm just going to say a random name. They could take Jean Montero. And, like, they could probably make it work. It's the fucking Warriors development team. They'd make anyone work. But that's personally who I think they have going there. It's a guy that you can play at center. He does a lot of the things you like. Now, granted, he's not the greatest player, but I think he is incredibly safe. And I think the fact of, like, he's a guy you can have transition into kind of learning his defense from Draymond, because him and Draymond are very similar builds. I think he's actually taller than Draymond, if I remember correctly. And plus, I mean, as well, he kind of already plays defense a little like Draymond. Not at the same level, not even close to the same level, but he could easily learn to grow into a defender like Draymond. At 29, I have the Grizzlies. If I can find him in here quick enough, I have them selecting Christian Braun. Once again, just taking a guard that you can potentially move on for some of your bench guards. I'm sorry, Grizzlies fans, I don't really have a lot to say about with your team. And I feel bad because everyone else gets, like these minute-long rants. I don't really have anything to say for the Grizzlies players. I just kind of have you guys taking players who I think are going to be good at the next level. But, I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe, once again, Grizzlies fans are going to hate me because I'm pretty sure I had you guys take 2 shooting guards. And at 30, I have the OKC Thunder taking one of the projects off the board. They are going to take Ishmael Kamagate. Obviously, as you can see, the mock is now here. But to me, Ishmael is a really interesting piece. Because I don't want to word this in a way that makes sense. Because, I have it in my head. Ishmael is a player that I think is going to be really interesting. Because of what his offensive potential can be, and the fact of, he's not the greatest defender. But I think at the same time, though, he can grow into one. He has the skill set to be able to do it. Where I think he could be one of the bigs that are oh, he's the sneaky good defensive big, but you don't take him as that. That's what I think he can grow into. And I think once again, the Thunder are in an interesting spot of where they're still they could honestly push for playoffs next year. They have enough talent to do so. Their talent's probably gonna all take jumps. All they gotta do is just not act like people are hurt. I'm sorry, Thunder fans, I had to take a dig at you. But all you have to do is just take a risk with someone. And I think Ishmael is the guy that is going to be that swing that I think pays off. I know obviously the Poku, Poku hasn't really panned out. Obviously, once again, I said earlier in the video, Thunder fans, let me know how you feel about Poku. But to me personally, I think with these two, I think that's a solid enough replacement to be able to move on and not feel bad about selecting Poku. All right, we're gonna go through, kind of read through this just so in case you skipped at the end here. Hornets select Holmgren 1, Pistons 2 with Jabari, 3 Thunder with Jabari, 4 Pelicans with Ivy, 5 Rockets with Murray, 6 Magic with Griffin, 7 Pacers with Sharp, 8 Blazers Duran, 9 Kings Davis, 10 Spurs Mathurian, 11 Wizards Daniels, 12 Knicks Eason, 13 Thunder Jovic, 14 Cavs Atbaji, 15 Hornets Williams, 16 Hawks Washington, 17 Rockets Sochan, 18 Bulls Liddell, 19 Wolves Brown, 20 Spurs Jaden Hardy, 21 Nuggets Branham, 22 Grizzlies Wesley, 23 Nets Dieng, 24 Bucks Beauchamp, 25 Spurs Koloko, 26 Mavericks Moore, 27 PB&J Patrick Baldwin Jr., 28 Warriors Trevion Williams, 29 Grizzlies Christian Braun, and 30 Thunder Kamagate. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know how you feel about this. I already know you guys are going to let me know anyways, even if I said don't. Tell me in the comments down below of who you think should have gone where. Tell me who your team should have drafted. And honestly, like I said, I already know. I know how YouTube reacts to this stuff. I know people go after. So be my guest. I'm honestly a-okay. I understand posting content's going to get me flamed. So I mean, hey, come at me all you want. You know, I may have a discussion with you. Who knows? Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.